Hello everyone, welcome back for another edition of Virtual Yin Yoga. I'm your instructor Mike. I'm happy to have you with me this evening. What I wanted to do for tonight's practice is an alternative spine series. We've done spine series in the past, but this one is slightly different. And how it's different, the poses that we are going to do are going to involve more flexion and extension of the spine. Flexion is forward bending, back bending is extension. And normally with our spine series, we'll do what's called lateral flexion, which means bending forward to a side. We're not going to worry about that with this particular practice. Again, this is a slightly different variation to the spine series I've taught in the past. But before we get started, go ahead and grab whatever you need. Yoga mat to lay on. You can always have a blanket, a hand towel, yoga straps if you got them. Blocks, yoga blocks are a great prop, or if you have pillows, those are going to work just as well for you. So go ahead and grab whatever you need, and then when you're ready, join us back into the practice. And we'll start it off in a comfortable position, just laying down. I want you to close your eyes and pay attention to your breath. Breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. Turn your senses and your awareness within. And for the first few minutes, let's do it a little bit different. Let's just go ahead and focus on the breath, just to really slow ourselves down and become in tune with what's going on within ourselves. See if you can sense the energy that moves with your breath. It tends to rise up the front of the body on inhales, and it tends to fall down the back side of the body on the exhales. See if you can observe those sensations while we're here. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And we'll start our practice off still laying down. I just want you to bring your knees up to the chest. Cradle your legs. Rock up and down on your spine. Go side to side. Make circles. Just use your intuition here, right? Help to wake up these deeper areas, especially the spine, right? Our lumbar spine. That's where we're gonna focus on a lot in this practice. We'll do a little bit of hip work as well. Again, though, more for the spine. Take it slow while you're here. Just really trying to observe every inch of your body. What feels different about it today as opposed to yesterday, the day before? And where do you want it to go in the future? Take a few deep breaths while you're here. And when you're ready, you go ahead and make your way up to a seated position. We're going to start this off with forward bends, right? We're doing a spine series, so we got to bend forward. The first one I'm suggesting right now is called butterfly pose. You have the soles of the feet brought together in front of you. You're going to fall in round in the pose as best you can. But don't worry about getting the heads of the feet, because it's not the point. The point of this is to feel your inner thighs and to feel your back stretch nice and broad stretches when you fall into this. So try not to pull and yank with all your might, because you're probably going to overstretch if that's your mindset. Inner thighs and back, right? Broad stretches. But if you're not feeling that, maybe you're feeling it more in your knees, the hips, especially the back of the hips, the SI joints. Don't push through that. That's going to be that's your body saying dial it back. So maybe just lessen on that forward bend a little bit. If it's really aggravating your knees, I will allow you to skip this forward bend to do a reclining butterfly pose with the soles of the feet together, just laying down. And the reason why I would suggest this, I just want you to get into the inner thighs, because we're also going to stretch it again on the next pose. So you might as well do something that's going to help warm this area up. But if you're comfortable with the forward bend, let's do that forward bend. And we're going to be doing at least 3, maybe even 4 different forward bends. So we're gonna play it along and just kind of see what happens. We're going to wing it today. And again, remember to breathe. Some deep inhales, some deep exhales. Really allow your body to sink into these poses. When we're doing yin yoga, we really want to emphasize relaxation into it, right? We want these slow and static postures that we can relax in. And that's why I like to give you what I call the scale of stretching, the scale between 1 and 10. If 10 is your deepest stretch, go for around 6 and 7 because you're less likely to overstretch there and you're more likely to relax. But you'll still get a nice moderate stretch out of this, right? So just something to keep in mind throughout the practice. And it's something I would encourage you to think about anytime you're doing a yin practice. Just finding an effective stretch that's not too much, but it's not too little, right? It's at just right mark. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's a time. Use your hands, slowly push out, go ahead and lean back and lay down. Take your time getting there. We're gonna relax here for a moment. About 3 minutes in that pose. We're gonna do another forward bend. Inner thighs and hamstrings, as well as the back. We're gonna do a dragonfly pose. And this is where you spread out your legs, really as far as you feel comfortable, and you're gonna lean forward into it. Inner thighs, back, you'll get a bonus hamstring stretch. And the reason why we're doing this, again, we just stretched the inner thighs, but the next pose after this is gonna be a direct hamstring stretch. So this is another warm up for that particular area, as well as working into your spine. Once again, breathing in to it, some deep inhales, deep exhales. This is where you may need a block if you have one, or a couple of pillows if you happen to have them. You can always rest your elbows in front of them, just so you can have some support. Or, if you feel comfortable, you can grab onto your legs. For some people, that's what they're going to prefer to do. They're just going to want to grab onto something here. Toes, if you can get them. Not a big deal, though, right, if you can't touch your toes, because it's not a toe-touching competition. And if it was, then, well, yoga wouldn't be fun, because yoga is not a competition, right? And that's one of the reasons why there was a lot of backlash about trying to put it into the Olympics. This was back in like 2012 when they wanted to do it, which did not happen, thankfully, because that would have been a miserable experience for a lot of people. The person with the best bone structure and the deepest range of motion would have won. But that's beside the point. Again, just coming back to this idea of yoga is for everybody. Right? There's not a better or worse kind of practice. There's not the best yogi in the world. Everybody is the best yogi in the world if you're practicing. Right? And we just want to figure out what exactly our body wants to do, as it's unique. It's incredibly unique as opposed to anybody else that is going to do a practice. That's why no two people look the same when they do yoga. It's their body that's different. It's the skeleton that's different. That's not something you can change. Go ahead and, again, taking a few deep breaths when you're ready. Your time's about 3 minutes here. Use the hands to push up, lean back, lay down. Take your time here. Feel the rebound. How different do you feel right now, as opposed to when you first started that pose? When you're ready, and again, no rush, take your time there. You can make your way back to a comfortable seated position for caterpillar pose. So this is our pure hamstring stretch. You're gonna get the back of the legs here. With it, you're just gonna have the legs extended and you're gonna lean forward. Grab onto something comfortable. That could be anything, really. That could be the knees, could be the shins, ankles, around the feet, toes, if you can grab them. Like we mentioned, it's not a toe touching competition, so don't worry about it if you can't. But if you do grab your toes, you can get a bonus calf and Achilles tendon stretch right here, back of the shin, back of the heel. This is extra. The intention, though, is to get the back of the leg from glutes to knee, right, back upper half, and then your back as well. This is where you may want to have a hand towel or a yoga strap if you got them. You can always use them to lace and loop over your feet to help you pull forward. But try not to pull back, because if we start pulling back here, we're going to lose the forward bend, which is why we're doing this, right? This is a spine series, so do your best to bend forward. And in case you're really struggling to bend forward, another modification for you is to let your knees bend. You don't have to lock those legs down, keep that in mind. When the knees are bent, you can round the spine more into this. So if you're really, really tight in the hamstrings, I would recommend doing this because you're probably still going to feel plenty of this anyways. And again, we're not concerned with aesthetics, not concerned with alignment. We're concerned with functional perspective. Do I feel the stretch? Right? That's the most important thing that you need to focus on. Am I feeling what I need to feel? Which is sometimes forgotten in yoga. A lot of times, a lot of teachers are going to teach you off of alignment. They're going to say, look this way, do it this way, or you're doing it wrong. And we're going to keep practicing until it looks like that. And the reality is, with everybody being different, we're not going to do poses the same way. So perfect alignment doesn't exist, so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Anybody with a basic understanding of anatomy will recognize that. And honestly, you don't even have to have a basic understanding of anatomy to know that we're different. You know, you hear that all the time. Everybody's special, everybody's different. Which sounds corny, but it is true. Everybody is different. And I think it's important for us to recognize that, especially when we're doing yoga, because if we judge ourselves off of what our neighbor looks like, then we're going to be disappointed, you know, or maybe we're going to think that we're better than them, and that's not true at all. I mean, we're all equal in that degree, right? Everybody is different. So it's not a matter of better or worse, but again, recognizing what makes us unique. I think that's a wonderful aspect to focus on. What makes me unique? You know, I think about that a lot, and I hope you do too. Take a few deep breaths. When you're ready, there's your time. Just real slow, using the hands to push out. Lean back, lay down. Take the time on that. Once again, feel the difference, right? The next target area that we're going to focus on is going to be our IT bands, iliotibial band. And this is the outside of your leg, so we all know it runs from ilium to tibia, that's the name, IT band. Broad stretch right here on the outside of the leg. I was going to recommend a forward bend, but if you feel like you don't want to do that, or if this pose doesn't work, I will offer up another suggestion. But if you're a regular of this practice and you already know that the shoelace is not going to work for you, don't worry about it. Just go to whatever pose works best for you. But in case you're interested, the shoelace pose, you're doing your best to stack the knees on top of each other. Again, it does not have to be perfectly aligned, but it's going to be the top leg's IT band that gets a stretch. It's a nice broad stretch on the outside of the top leg. And this is going to involve you bending forward into it. But with any IT band stretch, be mindful of the knee, be mindful of the hip. Any localized pain is usually a sign of overstretching, which we don't want to feel. So if you're feeling it, you could always try untying your shoelace, we call it, just kind of widening the stance. Same deal, lean forward. Or another option, and just this is a quick clarification pose, maybe eye of the needle, where you lay on your back, you cross the leg over, You take one hand to go in between your legs, the other wraps around to the shin, and you grab and pull, right? You grab and pull on the shin. The cross leg is the one that's going to get that particular stretch. So again, up to you. Like I said, there's no right or wrong on this. Everybody's going to have a preferred pose because of their body. But the more we do this, the more familiar we become with our bodies, and the less guesswork we have to make. You know, the first year or so of your practice will be a lot of guessing. I'm going to be totally honest with you about that. But again, after a while, when you start becoming familiar with things, the guesswork isn't going to be so much. But I would still encourage you to experiment with your body because we want to see how it's progressing. You know, how is it changing? And then we can recognize those milestones. And that's really what makes yoga worth it. You know, those small things where maybe when you first started you couldn't touch your toes, but now you can wrap your palms around the toes. Or maybe you drop something, you bend over to pick it up, but your back doesn't hurt anymore. You know, those things are worth it in my opinion. And I think that's what we need to look for. You know, when we're doing this kind of practice, we need to recognize, hey, this is progress right here. And it's okay, you know, things take a step back. You know, every now and then you're going to slip up. Don't worry about it. It happens to everybody. Even the world's greatest yogis will have a minor slip up here and there. But the point is to catch ourselves on that and then bring us back into our practice. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's your times. Really slowly uncrossing, untying the shoelace, we like to call it. Lean back, lay down. Now, if you're already laying down and you're eye at the needle, just let the legs go, and you kick back and relax for a moment. Short breather here again, always a short breather. We'll get to the other side shortly. Other side, when you're ready. So whatever side you are on, but remember, if you're doing the shoelace, it is your top leg getting the IT band stretch again. Should be a nice broad stretch on the outside of this top leg. So for me, my left leg is on top, so that's the one getting the stretch. Leaning forward, hands are usually all you need in this one, but you know, some people can hug their knee. With me teaching, I like to be upright and obviously looking at the camera. But there are still times where I feel like it's not necessary to go past this point. You know, maybe I'll round my neck and my head into it to get my upper body involved, but my lower body is totally fine right here. I'm still getting my back stretch, getting my IT band stretch. And remember, if you're feeling knee or hip pain, or maybe you just can't really cross your leg over, that eye of the needle substitution, that's going to be a wonderful pose for you to practice. You just lay on your back, cross the leg over, grab on the opposite leg and pull it. Still, broad stretch on the IT band. And I think actually one day for another practice, I'm going to exclusively just teach modifications to poses. Instead of just doing a practice, I want you to have backup poses that you can always go to. You know, you have your plan Bs, plan Cs, plan Ds, because someday plan A, your favorite pose, isn't going to work. Sometimes it's just the day. Sometimes it's the weather. You know, you just never really know. So it's important for us to have backup plans, right, to fall back on if we ever need it. One day we'll get there. No worries though. And maybe in that same practice, I'll show you how to use blocks and other kinds of props more efficiently too, just so you can, you don't have to imagine what I'm suggesting. You'll actually be able to see it. few deep breaths. And when you're ready, there's your time. Really slowly uncross, lean back, lay down, take your time there. You got a minute to yourself to do whatever you need. And then after the minute, we're going to go ahead and move on into our back bends. The back bend we're going to start with is going to be the Sphinx pose. In the Sphinx pose, you're going to lay on your stomach, prop up onto your forearms and your elbows, and this is your pose. You know, it's not really a stretch or anything like that. You should just feel this dull pressure right here in the lower back. That's all it should be. Dull and gentle. If it feels sharp, you're going to want to lower down, right? Don't push through sharpness. Decrease the intensity. But if you're here and it's really dull and gentle, then you're good to go. And this is for extension of the spine. You know, we've done a lot of flexion, which is the forward bends, but now we're extending it and doing back bends. And it's really important for us to do that because we've done so many forward bends. And we just want to be able to counterbalance it, right? We don't want to just always bend forward or always bend backward because you're going to ruin your spine that way. Actually, just a quick note for you. One of the worst things that you can do for your spine is constantly sitting. When you sit down, you're compressing your spine. You're basically doing this to your spine. Now, it's not as intense, but the pressure of compression is there. And it's 4 times as compressive to sit as it is to stand. And so imagine this. You know, if you were constantly doing this all day, squeezing those bones into each other, squeezing the disc, squeezing the nerves, things degenerate. They wear down, they fall apart. And there's a reason why 4 out of 5 Americans will deal with debilitating back pain at some point in their life. A lot of times it's just because you're sitting too much. So get up and move. You know, one of the best things that you can do is exercise every single day. And you don't have to do yoga every day. I would encourage it if you have the time to. If you have 30, 40, maybe an hour, you know, do your practice. But some people just like to go out and walk or run or spin or swim. You like to lift weights, you know, whatever kind of activity. You like to play sports. Do that, right? Do those activities and keep your body healthy. I compare it to brushing your teeth all the time. You know, you don't just brush your teeth once a week really hard on Wednesdays at 6:30, do you? No, you brush your teeth every day, multiple times a day. Keeps your mouth healthy, it keeps your gums healthy, it keeps your teeth healthy. The body is no different, right? We are made to move. We are physical beings for that reason. So, you know, make sure that you're keeping up on that. When you are ready, though, there's your time. Just real slow, lay on your stomach. And take your time here. It may feel like a long way away, so you just hang out here. You know, at some point, though, it's going to feel really nice to do a gentle forward bend. So maybe something like a child's pose might be right up your alley right about now. Or laying on your back and cradling the legs. It's the inversion of this pose. We have one more pose left. We have to stretch the quads, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Quads are your upper thighs, so we all know. And the first option I can give you for both at the same time is called bow pose. This is where you lay on your stomach, you grab onto your feet, and you pull them, right? The more you pull, the more you get. Muscular effort is required. Now, if you can't grab your feet, this is where the prop will come back in. You could take a towel, kind of just try to wrap it over your feet and your ankles and just pull on the towel, right? That's a really, really useful prop here. Now, if you're really struggling and maybe you can only grab one leg, that's fine. You know, I can let you know when it's about halfway through here so you can switch the sides. It's really up to you. And another option here for you, this is called saddle pose. You got the knees bent. It's still the upper thighs getting the stretch, but the more you lean back, the more you're going to get in this one. So maybe we'll just start it here with the hands. But after a while, if you feel like you need more, you can always go back to your elbows. I'll probably stay here for now again because I'm teaching. But if this doesn't work, it's really excruciating on the knees, especially any inside or outside the knee pain, I would recommend you do the bow pose. Don't push through it. You'll have more control over that pose because you're using muscular effort. Anytime I teach a new student, I'll usually show them muscular-based poses. And the reason why I'll do that is you're less likely to injure yourself as opposed to with gravity. You know, if you're a new student, you come in here, you got really tight knees, you do this pose, you blow your knees out, you're gonna blame the instructor, right? And I don't want that. I don't want to have that on my conscience. So I'll show you the pose I use as muscular effort, because if you need more, you keep pulling. Too much, you let it go, you're right out of the pose. So there are advantages to that. And if you are doing this one at a time, you're hitting that halfway point, you go ahead and switch the side. But if you're doing both at the same time, you just stay where you are. It actually feels really nice to lay down here now. Now again, don't worry about laying all the way down. If you're in this and you're saying, nope, way too much, then come back more upright. You know, don't push through any knee pain because it's not therapeutic. Anything that feels localized is overstretching. And a lot of times in this pose, it's going to be the inside or the outside of the knee that's flaring up. That's your warning sign saying, hey, stop doing what you're doing because I'm going to scream at you in a moment. And your body will always do this. You know, your body, when something starts to go wrong, it's going to just start to whisper. And you're like, hey, this is kind of like bothering me. Can you do something about it? And a lot of times we don't really hear that. But it will speak up the worse it gets, right? It will start talking to you. And that's when you're going to start realizing it. But if we don't do anything about it, it will scream at you, and then it's just going to go. And obviously, we don't want that. We want to have this nice relationship with our body, which is not selfish. So you know, if anybody tells you otherwise, don't listen to them, because they probably don't take care of themselves that well. And if you are ready, we're going to say that's the time for the pose, really slowly letting yourself out. If you're in a bow, it's pretty easy, you just let it go. If you're in a saddle pose, you can use your hands to assist yourself up, or some people will use their legs, just kind of like slide out and just keep laying down. You do what you need though. But definitely it's going to feel nice to do another gentle forward bend. So child's pose is usually going to be your best friend here. We are at the end of our practice, so if you're ready for Shavasana, corpse pose, go ahead and lay on your back and just close your eyes. There's nothing to see at this point, but just more to feel and pay attention to. Focus on your breath, breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm, turn your senses, your awareness within, and for the last few minutes, just observe the work you've done. You know, really focus on your back, focus on your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads, your inner thighs, your IT bands. Really just try to observe all that work that you've done with your 30 minutes of practice. no formal ending to our practice. You keep your eyes closed as long as you like, but that's officially all that I have for you. I want to thank you for watching and sharing your practice with me. It's been my pleasure. Namaste.